I'm not saying that. I'm
Oh,
saying that, did you know this?
okay.
There are there are 2.8 million more registered voters in California than there are citizens.
No, that is absolutely untrue.
What's happening, everybody? David Pakman interviewed Republican congressional candidate Mike Cargill on his show, The David Pakman Show. David Pakman and Mike Cargill discussed the topic of election integrity. So let's watch David Pakman do the usual song and dance, fail miserably at making his guests look stupid, and run and hide like a baby when confronted with a question he doesn't want to talk about. Let's go.
The environment at that time.
Wow, that is so, Mike. I don't want to let this slip because this is mind blowing. George Soros, who at the time of, I guess when this happened was 90, I think he's 92 now. 90-year-old George Soros obtained a private text communication that you had with someone else bemoaning the use of the N-word in rap music. Is that right?
Yes.
Wow, that is an incredible story.
And then they take it and they go, look, see, white guy writes out the N-word and he's a racist. And then, then
Wow.
they just sort of cascade, and that's politics.
It's almost unbelievable, to be perfectly frank. I think many in my audience will struggle to believe that.
Well, it's what happened, and
Yeah.
it was what was regurgitated by the California Republican Party a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
As further evidence, and they said publicly in their meeting, anyone can look this up because it's all over the internet now what they did to me, but they said, how did this guy make it through the primary? We unendorsed him in 2020, and here he is again, and we're having to unendorse him again. I'm the
Mike,
only one
listen.
in the country.
Just as a gut check, we're doing this when we speak to 2022 candidates, and it's a weird question to ask, but I hope you'll indulge me. Who is the real president of the United States right now?
Well, who's sitting in the White House? That's Joe Biden.
Right.
Was he there legitimately? I don't know. Let's find out. I'm on a lawsuit that's at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals right now. Our oral arguments will begin September 23rd. And we're asking to forensically audit 13 counties in California. Most important lawsuit in the nation.
Is it?
And I want to get to the bottom of this question because people go, he's not legit. He is legit. It was stolen. It wasn't stolen. Folks.
Like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it.
Nobody knows.
Well, but hold on a second, Mike. Let's see if we can break that down, though, because so nobody knows. We have results from California, right? The results from California are Biden got 11.1 million votes. Trump got 6 million votes. Overwhelming victory for Biden. Those are the results we have. In order to say we don't know, we should have some reason to question those results. What reason do you have to question the results that make you say, I can't be confident that we have the real numbers?
Well, David, if you were an Olympian and you ran a race and you got the gold medal, let's say you're like Usain Bolt, you ran this race, you got the gold medal.
Yep.
What's the first thing they do after you set that world record? They do a blood test.
Okay.
And they check to see if you have performance enhancing drugs in your system.
Okay.
That's an audit. They do an audit of your bloodstream. Why don't we do the same thing with the greatest race in the world, which is the U.S. presidential election?
Well, I think one reason would be just the voter registration numbers in California are so lopsided towards Democrats that it's very hard to believe that there would be any real outcome there other than Biden easily winning. I mean, let me ask you a question. What do you suspect were the real results in California?
I don't know.
Okay, but it's a cop-out to say you don't know. What reason do you have to question the results?
Thousands and thousands of affidavits that have been submitted to my co-plaintiff under, they notarized and, the charge of perjury if you lie on this, that they saw things that were not right, conducted at a myriad of places, including the polling places, including ballot drop-off boxes. Nobody knows, and yet no one wants to look. And all I'm asking with my co-plaintiffs is, let's open the hood and let's actually see what occurred.
Okay.
So David asks him, what do you think are the actual results in California? And he gives the absolute correct answer. I don't know. He doesn't know. Then David labels that answer as a cop-out by saying, I don't know. No, he's telling the truth. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. We all know that there's shady stuff that goes on in elections. No one needs a reason to want to audit election results. That's the answer right there. You don't need a reason. Everyone should be united in the desire to have free and fair elections. So right off the bat, David starts out with the patronizing little quips and the way he responds to things. You're telling me 90-year-old George Soros got your private text communication. What does the fact that he's 90 years old have to do about it? He says, that's an unbelievable story. People in my audience would struggle to believe it. But yeah, they'd struggle to believe it because you're telling them to struggle to believe it, and they clearly don't have an ability to think for themselves or look at the facts. Obviously, if they're watching you, I mean, that's very clear. You know, to a lot of people, if you suggest that there's I don't know how you describe them, hyper elite class in the world, kind of the uniparty globalists, if you suggest that, they act like you're crazy. But George Soros is the exact type of person that falls into that class. These are the people that want us divided so they can have unchecked power to interfere in elections and fund candidates that will help them achieve their ongoing goal, which is to keep American citizens divided and fighting over nonsense, so we're not paying attention to what they're doing, which is pursuing as much control as possible over everyone. These are destructive and evil forces. Just ask yourself, why do you hear all the time that someone was a Soros-funded candidate? All over the country, federal elections, state elections, local elections. Why the hell would, as David said, 90-year-old George Soros constantly fund elections, even in relatively small localities and sometimes obscure positions, for candidates whose position that will never affect him in the slightest? I mean, if you're watching this channel, I don't need to tell you, but it's because money talks. And once you take his money, you'll probably get elected, but you've sold your soul. And obviously this is an older interview, but I've seen him pull this dumb question out to tons of conservative guests he has on his show. Who do you think is the president right now? And every conservative is like, well, Joe Biden. I don't know what he thinks he's going to get with that question. I know he thinks it's a gotcha, but is he expecting to be like, Donald Trump's the president? Well, I mean, Joe Biden's in the White House. His title is President of the United States. What does he think he's going to get out of people? But let's be very clear, that was Joe Biden's title until today, by the way. But he was never running anything. He just had a script that a bunch of unscrupulous a-holes gave him. He'd give a speech and he'd go back to bed. So yeah, he's the president, but he's not running anything.
Okay, but
no
when you look at the voter registration numbers, even if there were tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of these instances, right? California, only 24% of registered voters are Republicans. There's just no way Trump could have won.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that. Did you know this?
Okay.
There are 2.8 million more registered voters in California than there are citizens.
No, that is absolutely untrue.
We've got the data to prove it.
I hope you will send it to me.
My co-plaintive is the Election Integrity Project, California.
Okay.
And they
listen, because I don't have, I mean, I've not seen that. I mean, send it to me. Send it to me. You know, every state in which it has been claimed that there are more voters than citizens, it has been debunked. And it seems in California it wouldn't be even close.
Has any state done a forensic audit?
Well, the states have done all sorts of evaluations and recounts and audits, but then someone always comes. Hold on, but Mike, hold on.
Yes, go ahead.
Someone then comes along and says, that's not the type of audit I meant.
No, they've done recounts. Nobody has done an audit.
In Arizona, an audit was done, and it found Biden got even more votes.
The Arizona audit was not done properly. What we're looking for is this: we have three things in our complaint.
Yeah.
Here's the ballot. I want to look at the envelope, and then let's look at the machine.
Okay.
So they've had to look at they've safeguarded the images of the hard drives. We have the voter rolls, and let's compare all four of those.
All right. Well, let's do that. We're not going to be able to do it today. So in the interest of...
we can start today.
We can no, I mean, you and I won't be able to. Now, listen, I want to ask you something. There's this guy who my audience knows him as Mike Pillow. He's the CEO of My Pillow, Mike Lindell. But as a shorthand, we'll sometimes call him Mike Pillow or even just Pillow. Everybody knows who he is.
Sure.
He is obsessed with the machines, and he actually wants to sue every machine. Where are you on the machines?
Well, I think the machines need to be looked at.
Okay.
I think just like Dinesh D'Souza's movie with 2,000 Mules,
Oof.
the ballot drop-off boxes need to be looked at. One of the areas in our lawsuit is the Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. It's called the Guarantee Clause.
You know, I've noticed a pattern that when I'm editing my videos featuring David Pakman, I'm constantly shaking my head during it and rolling my eyes. And as a viewer, you might think that's for like affect or something, to say, I don't like this guy. But it's involuntary. I mean, I do it when he's saying something relatively benign. I still do it just because he's so friggin' exhausting to me. And it's the same thing over and over. And I think I'm also just wondering, like, who takes him seriously? And I probably asked that question 8,000 times. Anyway, so Mike Cargill asked David Pakman a question. Did you know that there were more votes cast than registered voters in California? And how did David respond? That's not true. That's been debunked. Doesn't provide any evidence as to why it's not true, and cuts him off while the other guy is trying to explain to him why he believes it's true. But if Mr. Confident is so certain of that, and you're always trying to make people look foolish, then why don't you let him make his case? It's funny how you didn't do that. You wanted to move on immediately. And when Mike Cargill says, I just want a full audit of the election, David says, there have been all sorts of recounts and evaluations. Oh, okay, well, that's really specific. But people always say it's the wrong kind of investigation. Maybe they do, David, but there's only one kind that will give you an answer. A comprehensive audit of voter registrations, votes cast, who they vote for, what system were they using, what kind of security do they employ to ensure accuracy, etc. But you notice David just blows it off like it's just stupid to even question that. This is just another of one of about 8 billion examples of David Pakman being on the completely wrong side of a topic. Everyone talks about how divided our country is. If the people's confidence that our elections are fair increases significantly, wouldn't that be one less thing for people to be divided over? Progressive is such a misnomer, because every side of arguments that they support is regressive. It's literally an antonym for exactly what they stand for. David, doesn't it bother you, or at least give you pause, that Florida can count votes and have election results in a presidential election within a couple of hours, and it takes other states weeks? What excuse can people make for the disparity between the different states in their efficiency in providing election results? Shouldn't that bother everyone? Why can much less developed countries than ours have the results the same day, but we have states taking weeks? It's unacceptable. I covered David Pakman's interview with Mike Lindell the other day, who's an election integrity activist, and it was a very similar conversation about election integrity. So I'll wrap up here with the same question I asked in that video. Why is it that there's only one side of the aisle that doesn't want us auditing elections and doesn't want us minimizing the ways in which people could tamper with elections? Well, that's obviously a rhetorical question, and you know exactly why. But what did you all think about this conversation between Mike Cargill and David Pakman? I found Mike Cargill to be very reasonable with his answers and what he'd like to achieve with regard to elections. But as always, let me know if I'm wrong. Anyway, that's it for this video. At this point, I've covered a ton of David Pakman videos now. So if you like having David Pakman irritate you for 10 to 15 minutes, then click on one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. Otherwise, as always, I really, really appreciate you watching. The end.